hour for this session. Thank you for coming. So this session is titled Connecting the Dots, Convening Schools and Local Employers. We're going to have 3 community models that are going to be a panel today that you're going to hear from about how they've brought community members together in the private sector, the government sector, the education sector, how they've brought them together to build better partnerships with school and business. So quickly, I'm going to read some shortened summaries of the sheet that Dr. Sarah Derry handed out to you in the back, and then we're going to go introduce our panelists, go to some prepared questions, and then we'll have a chance for each of you, or for some of you, to reach out to us and ask questions as well. So the first group that we have is Marshalltown Business Education Alliance. So this alliance was designed as a strategic initiative under the Marshalltown Chamber of Commerce 2011 to 2013 strategic plan. The focus of the alliance was clearly intended to address common issues between teachers, school administration, and community leaders from business and industry. By 2013, a plan had been established to expand educational opportunities for students, engage business leaders and educators to determine skills needed in the workplace, improve community perceptions about the school system, develop a unified front to ensure parents understood the value of education, and provide one voice advocacy for policies and issues affecting educational excellence. The second group is the Lee County Economic Development Group. In 2014, they interviewed over 60 industries as part of their Lee County 2018 capital campaign and conducted synchronous interviews with over 20 employers. Out of these one-on-one interviews, the availability of a qualified workforce was the #1 restriction to industries. As a result, Lee County Economic Development Group began hosting a series of breakfast meetings called Talent for Today and Tomorrow, which launched the creation of 10 workforce goals ranging from elementary outreach to uptraining the existing workforce. Partnerships with employers, Southeastern Community College, Iowa Works, and school districts has allowed groups and organizations to join forces with a new spirit of cooperation and purpose that is being felt through all levels of the school system, industries, and Lee County communities. And last but not least is Des Moines Area Community College Business Development. For the last 3 years, DMAC has partnered with the Regional Economic Development Group, Opportunity Squared, to provide an interactive and engaging program which allows Iowa middle and high school educators, counselors, and administrators to experience today's real STEM workplaces. This out-of-the-classroom 4-day experience provides educators with an understanding of essential concepts that employers are seeking in the workforce. It includes tours and hands-on experiences at regional companies, as well as engaging discussions with education and industry experts. So first, I'm going to have each one of these panelists introduce themselves. And panelists, if you could tell us your name, your role, and a description of your community. For example, the demographics, industries, population of your area, a general overview. Start with you first.
Can everybody hear okay? Give me the mic. My name's Chris Dury. I serve as the Chancellor of the Iowa Valley Community College District. For those of you who may not be familiar with that, we have under our umbrella Ellsworth Community College, Marshalltown Community College, and we have several other kind of what I call subsidiaries of the organization and a branch campus in Grinnell. Demographically, you want me to take some of that and you can add to it? Demographically, Marshalltown in particular, which is where we have the Marshalltown Business Education Alliance, a community of about 27,000. Most notably, if you're familiar with the demographic changes occurring in Iowa, Marshalltown's often recognized, along with Storm Lake and some other communities, that in the last 20 years has had a significant demographical shift with the influx of a lot of immigrant and refugee populations. And I guess to kind of validate that point, and I see we have Dr. Schutte, our new superintendent for Marshalltown Community School District, with us. The last I looked, Theron, the community school district has 1,400 to 1,500 students, about 30% of which are English language learners. And so our industrial base is driven by major employers. If you're familiar with Lennox furnaces and air conditioners, we have Lennox Industries in our community, Emerson Fisher Controls, a global organization. And then probably at the heart of what drove a lot of the movement towards forming the alliance is we have a very large pork processing plant, JBS Swift, and they employ approximately 2,400 full-time employees, and about 80% of their workforce is made up of our minority and immigrant refugee populations. Add to that.
Sounds good. My name is David Barajas. I'm the CEO of the Marshalltown Regional Partnership. The Regional Partnership is the umbrella organization for our chamber, our economic development group, and our Convention and Visitors Bureau. And like Dr. DeReese said, we do have quite a diverse population, and I think Dr. Schutte, I think we have, I've heard in the high schools anywhere, or in the school district, anywhere between 35 and 40, 45 different languages that are spoken. And so Dr. DeRee will be able to tell you about some of the progress that we've made in working with the parents of a lot of those students to try to help them become better engaged within the school district, which then obviously ultimately also helps with our business and industry and getting them more engaged there.
Hi, I'm Dana Millard. I'm with Lee County Economic Development. Lee County is in the very southeast corner of Iowa. If you're not familiar with us, it involves Keokuk and Fort Madison as our two major communities. We have about a little less than 30,000 in population, but as some of you may know, Lee County, Iowa has 99 counties. Lee County is the only county in Iowa with 2 county seats. So there's a bit of a rivalry there and not a good history of working together. But what we do have is a lot of manufacturing base. About 1 in every 4 of the people employed in Lee County and in our area are employed in the manufacturing sector. So it's a huge sector for us, a great revenue stream for our schools and being involved that way. We also have 3 different school districts that we've been bridging together to kind of have that opportunity of collaboration. Lee County is a unique county, but yet I know there's other communities in Iowa who also have rivalries such as ours and do need to work together. So that was one of our major challenges and a little background on Southeast Iowa and Lee County.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Kim Didier. I am the Executive Director for DMAC Business Resources, which is the department within DMAC that works with businesses in our region. The DMAC region is basically central Iowa, but it does reach to the far west, including Carroll County, and then to the southeast and includes Marion County. And I'll be talking today about a program we partnered with our Marion County Economic Development partner, Carla Isink, and her partners in Opportunity Squared, which was a regional economic development marketing region. For many of you who may be familiar with that part of the state, manufacturing, just like in Lee County, is a large employer for the entire region, whether you're in Pella, Knoxville, Newton, or other parts of the region. So that is, when I talk a bit more about the specifics of the program that we've worked with them for the last 3 years, you'll see that many of our tours include advanced manufacturing. But there are many smaller companies that support that advanced manufacturing, and then other sectors that support the communities that we also do explore, which includes healthcare, financial services, and other businesses. So.
All right, so we're going to spend the next 30 minutes asking the panel some specific questions to help kind of prime you all to be thinking about questions that you might want to pick their brains out. So we're going to spend 30 minutes with 3 prepared questions for the panel, and then open it up for you all to ask yours. So take notes accordingly, right? The first question is, as it pertains to the groups that you convene, what are your goals? And how do you define those goals and measure your success?
So I still have the microphone, so I'll start and we'll go down the other direction. So the groups that are convened and a part of the effort include the economic developers of the region, includes not only DMAC as a community college, but also because parts of the other parts of the region are in the Indian Hills region. So there's the community college as well through Indian Hills. And then obviously the businesses. And a lot of times it's the HR directors, but also for some of the smaller businesses, it could be their presidents and founders to maybe more specialized departments like with Vermeer Corporation, it is their lean and continuous improvement area. The overarching goal that initiated this program through really 4 years ago when we started planning was to inform our communities, and in particular our teachers, educators, counselors, those who are in the middle school and high school parts of our school districts about the employment opportunities that exist right in the region. That students who are growing up in the region did not have to leave in order to have very meaningful career pathways and employment opportunities. And in fact, we need them to stay, or we won't continue to have these kinds of opportunities because the businesses needed their basic willingness to be a part of their success. So the success in measuring the success of just the program in particular, it is, we haven't done a lot of formal measurement of that. A bit more of that's anecdotal at this point, but we have plans to do in the future with more formal basic measurements of that. And that is just basically seeing if we have specific outcomes where our businesses are experiencing more students from the region who have been a part of the region going into their employment opportunities is one thing, but also then having more visits from our schools into these employment opportunities so that they're seeing the students and showing the students what their work environment is like is another outcome that we're looking to measure in the upcoming years. And also then asking the teachers who've participated what steps they've taken, because we do specifically want them to walk away with tools that they can then implement formally into their curriculum. And through a survey instrument, finding out what parts of the information that they're learning throughout the 4-day session are they taking and implementing formally into their curriculum. And one quick success from we did this last week, was our session for this year, and already one of the teachers from one of the 5 school districts that participated reached out and wants to bring into their classroom next fall, their freshmen and sophomores, our whole program around continuous improvement and lean methodologies. So we're already talking with them of how to take the experience they had that day when that was the competency and pare it down so he can have that in his 45 to 50-minute class with his freshmen and his sophomores. So those are anecdotally some of our measurements of success, and we're hoping to be able to more formally measure those.
Okay. So as Christine mentioned, with our Lee County programs, it started with a bunch of interviews and one-on-one questions with our manufacturers. Like I mentioned, they're the biggest sector in Lee County, so we really want to know what they need in order to succeed. And as economic development, one of our major pillars is business retention and expansion. That's our major focus. And when we were talking to our industries, the number one feedback that we received was they don't have the workforce they need in order to expand. And one of our plant managers put it so bluntly as, well, if I can't grow here, I can't be here. So, and at that time he was trying to fill 4 positions in industrial maintenance, and he was really struggling. And so it wasn't, and he was trying to convince corporate to add a new product line to our area. So that would be 60 jobs. So it wasn't just those 4 manufacturing positions or those 60 additional potential jobs that could be coming to the area, but it's the overall, well, if I can't fill these, then corporate might not let me be here in the first place. So that's 200 jobs we're looking at. And that's a huge impact to our communities. So we really took that feedback to heart and started the Talent for Today and Tomorrow Breakfast series. It was a series where we had manufacturers, employers from little mom and pop job shops to bigger corporations like DuPont, Siemens, those kind of companies, all in the same room with our educators. And many of them have not interfaced ever. And so we had a real challenge to bring those 2 groups together along with workforce development. And we have a Southeastern Community College in our area. And just brainstorm as to, okay, what can we do in order to make this happen? As a lot of you are probably aware, workforce is a big beast. And it's hard to move that needle, but that's one of our goals, was to be able to make an impact and have some actionable items we could do in the next year. So that really resonated with our manufacturers. If you interface with plant managers, they are very much action-based. They are very much return on investment-based type of people. That's the mindset that they have. Educators, they do have the same goals, but different kind of thinking. They're more longer term. So it was marrying the 2 options. What we did end up doing for Grow Lee was 10 different workforce initiatives that started in elementary school with Lego robotics and went all the way up to uptraining existing workers with, we created a manufacturing 101 class. Because like the plant manager said, I need people now, not just in the future, but now as well. So we really tried to touch all those areas in between so that we can build that pipeline. Some of the ways we measure success is the number of students that go through it, the more interactions that we've had between the schools and the manufacturers. They are now having those conversations about, okay, I have, for example, one company brought up that reading is important, but what I need is that reading for information. And I'm not getting that. So how can I get some high school students to learn some technical reading? Because that's what they do in the workforce. They have to be able to read that technical writing, interpret it, and then implement it. So that's one of the things that we incorporated into Grow Lee is bringing those technical writing skills to the high school level, which reading that kind of material versus reading, say, Romeo and Juliet are 2 different kinds of reading. So it's something to expose the students to get them more career focused and skills that they can learn to use no matter what career field they're in. So that's kind of how we're incorporating it and measuring it. We've had a middle school program where we do, we partner with the community college for, it's called Kid Tech University, and Lee County, unfortunately, was one of the lowest participating counties in this program when it started. And their programs, like having a 7th grader learn how to weld, having a 4th grader learn to do some computer programming, skills that they'll need that translate to the workforce, but they think it's just fun. So we started a scholarship program, and we were able to increase the participation of Lee County students with that program and the scholarships by 229% that first year, and an additional 137% the second year. So you really see the results, and by reporting that back to our industries, they see those little wins and want to continue to participate. So that's how we've been measuring success in our Grow Lee programs.
Thank you. So coming from an economic development background, it's, and many of you may or may not have some of that community economic development background, but the engaging businesses and educators is extremely important. And when I got to Marshalltown just over 3 years ago, I'd been in some other communities that had been working at it, but nobody had a program set up like the Marshalltown Business Education Alliance. So that program came about beginning in some conversations in, I believe, 2010, 2011 timeframe, and around 2012 through some strategic planning with the Marshalltown Chamber of Commerce at the time, they began having discussions that then led to bringing some educators along. The Business Education Alliance is made up of about 16, 17 different individuals with the Marshalltown Public School District, Community School District, the Community College, Marshalltown Community College, and community development individuals. And the one thing that we like to remind everybody on the board and people that we talk to about it is the Business Education Alliance isn't about trying to from a business standpoint, tell our educators what they need to be doing, but the Business Education Alliance really is to help our educators execute their strategic plans. So, and that's a key point that we talk about all the time to make sure that we stay on task. But the idea of bringing educators and business people together has always been important, and as Dana talked about regarding the workforce, it's becoming even more and more important every day. I just had a meeting this morning with one of our local manufacturers, and it was a business retention meeting, and the one thing that he talked about that they need help with is something that I think we all understand quite well, but obviously a lot of people don't understand, and that's absenteeism. And because of absenteeism, he said it's just continuing to drive up cost of doing business in our area, and that's some of those soft skills that our younger employees sometimes aren't getting, and so that's where the connection with education and trying to help out with some of those soft skills and help out with finding better ways to engage our parents into their children's education is so extremely important. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Dury, and he can speak with you a little more specifically about 6 different goals that we have with the Business Education Alliance.
So before I do that, and so we're not just 4 talking heads in front of you at later afternoon, I'm curious to know if we have, other than Dr. Schutte, superintendents in the room? Okay. Principals? Okay. Teachers? Yeah. Business and industry? Okay. The reason I bring that up, I'm going to give a little more backdrop as to how the Business Education Alliance formed. I was relatively new to the community, and we have an ex officio position on the Marshalltown Chamber, and at that time I filled that role. We had a superintendent who was in his, I believe, his 2nd year of a superintendency. He would also go to the chamber meetings. And kind of put this in a visual context for you. We were always expected to give updates from the college and from the school district. And when we got around to the school district, what he was starting to experience at the monthly chamber meetings, I would probably equate to somewhere between either a firing squad or feeling like a piece of bloody raw meat thrown into an underfed tank of sharks. Okay? It was attack mode literally by the month. And after about 3 or 4 of those meetings, I caught the chamber director, who I knew fairly well, and I told him that really needed to stop. Let's start putting our energy into something positive instead of negative. Let's start talking about solutions instead of always just groveling over the problems, because that's really what it had become, and it was quite unfair, especially to a new superintendent. Out of that, as David mentioned, the chamber then built into their strategic plan a more progressive, positive way of dealing with the issues that the schools were working with in their strategic plan, and that became the genesis of the Marshalltown Business Education Alliance. So after we formed our group, which I at the time on the front end co-chaired, we had a strategic plan, a mission statement established, a strategic plan, and our goals, we had 6. We still have 6. And starting with the first one was to remove barriers and expand educational opportunities and career pathways for students. Goal number 2 was to actively engage business and educators to determine the skills needed in the workplace. Goal 3 was to improve community perceptions and attitude about education. Goal 4 was to develop a unified front to ensure parents recognize the value of education. And Goal 5 was to provide one-voice advocacy for policy and issues affecting education. In other words, we also have been involved through our project with the state legislature. And then goal number 6 was we knew we had to have metrics. So, and we have several, but for example, we're measuring how the school district is accomplishing the ability of our students to read for understanding by 3rd grade, decreasing high school dropout rates, improve high school graduation rates, persistence from high school to college, and improve attitudes and perceptions about education in Marshalltown. And we have strategic action plans and subcommittees for every one of those goals, addressing those through various actions. So those are our goals, and that's kind of how it all began. And it really has become, there's a lot more to all of this. Maybe we'll get to it, maybe we won't, but it's been a very positive experience. And I can tell you that we have positive, measurable results in every one of the areas that we've chosen collectively as a community to address.
So my next question for you then is timeline. So if somebody was looking to get started on this, what do you think would be a timeline to form a committee, and from that formation of a committee to getting to something where you can take action? So did it take you 6 months to get some ideas generated that then you could take action on, or was it a 2-month process? And this doesn't have to be like a long kind of idea, just kind of a tentative idea.
Well, I think when we started, we had no idea in 2012, you know, how long we were in it for the long haul, because as we pointed out, everybody wants a quick fix. And for the issues we were addressing, there is no quick fix. So timeline for us is, I guess at this point, I don't see any closure to our project, so I would say infinity on the back end. Hopefully this will never end, regardless of the turnover we have. So as far as from the very beginning of the idea that was built into the Chamber's strategic plan to the time we actually formed our committee, I would say that time frame was about 6 months. And you know, I think it just probably depends on how many people you want to involve and what the issues are that you're choosing to address. But in our case, we're kind of on an all-out comprehensive blitz. addressing the workforce needs of the community as well as the educational needs. And so we have a lot of moving parts. So hopefully ours will be sustainable for many years to come.
I think one thing that will make that sustainable, and something that as organizations grow and develop, it happens, and I'm sure all of your organizations, you have to be willing to take a look at where you are today compared to where you were when you started. And in fact, Dr. Dury and I and Dr. Schutte, over the lunch hour, were just talking about the idea of this fall. The Marshalltown Business Education Alliance is going to be going through sort of another strategic plan to really sort of look back at the successes, find out sort of where we've fallen short, and really, from the time that this was first, the concept first came about in 2010, 2011, to now, I mean, things have changed. Things have changed in Marshalltown. Things have changed in education. Obviously, from a budgeting standpoint, things are changing all the time here in the state level and at the federal level. So we're looking forward to, as we look ahead, to take a step back and try to figure out where we want to go next. But I think one thing, as you're looking at beginning to think about doing something like this, you really have to have a clear understanding of really what the why is and really what you're trying to get out of it. So I think from a timeline standpoint, it's all very dependent. I think sometimes we try to do too much too quickly to try to satisfy some needs. In today's day and age, obviously with technology, we expect and everybody expects for something to happen today. If not today, then by next week. And if not, then scrap the plan sometimes and try to find something else. And it takes a little bit more courage, I think, to try to find and go about with some long-term planning. Something like this, I think, sometimes takes a little bit of time to make sure that you're going in the direction that you want to go in.
From our standpoint, I would say if you're trying to implement something in your community, it really all depends on the relationships and the partners that you already have. Sometimes that takes a little bit to build up to get that buy-in on a one-on-one basis. But if you already have that established, then you can get something started as soon as you're able to. That's kind of what we did. We had that one-on-one relationships. We knew what the industries were saying. We knew the schools were hungry to get involved with the manufacturers, but they just didn't know how. So that's why we started having breakfast, and that seemed to be the easiest way to get people together. And we promised them that each breakfast would be 58 minutes. We have a timer. We respect your time. If it's gonna go longer than that, you're welcome to stay, but we stop at 58 minutes, and so that we have enough time for our manufacturers. These are plant managers, they're superintendents, they're busy people. We wanna make sure that they know what to expect from us and then hold us accountable to that. So I would agree that you do need to have that longer term planning involved with it, but you also need a couple little wins to get you started, to get that ball rolling, in order to keep it going. We had one plant manager, and our plant managers seem to be pretty blunt with me, but they tell you, hey, love the first meeting. If anything comes of it, let me know. Okay. So, and one of our things that we really pride ourselves on is moving past the Post-it notes. How many of you have been in a meeting where you come up with ideas, you write it on a Post-it note or a sticky note, and you put it up on the wall? Anybody have been to those meetings numerous times? And then you ask, what's going to happen with this? Well, that's the next step. That's where you need those actionable items so that they see the value in bringing their ideas to you. And some of those, like I said, workforce is a big beast. Some of them we can't fix, but we can make a little bit of an impact, and they can see that as we grow. And some of them are longer term plans, and some of them are short. So it all really depends on your community and what your community needs. But I would just reiterate being respectful of their time, and all of us have been, or most of us have been through this process before. So you may have a couple critics in your audience. Recognize that. And show them how, okay, this is different. We are going to be moving forward. We have to do something. So whether that be a small win with starting a scholarship program, or the bigger picture of, okay, how do we implement soft skills in the high school when the high school says, well, we're doing that. It's called 21st century skills. Okay, then how do we make this happen? How do we marry the two so that the industry has what they need and the schools understand what they're trying to produce? Because we all have the same goal. It's just, how do we get there?
So since the model I've been talking about is a little bit more event-based and targeted specifically to educators, I'm going to start with the end in mind, in that our event usually happens in June, the first part of June, where educators are willing yet still to come back into a bit more of a structured setting before they relax and have a less structured summer. So when we first did this 3 years ago, we really started planning in June for the event to happen the following June. And then we actually need to get marketing materials out by January so that you've got the attention and can market to your teachers through January, February, and March as they're starting to think about what they're going to do that summer, and get them engaged and set up to do it. Then once you have the model going, it only takes that January timeframe of picking a time and then starting to market. So, but we're tapping into a number of things that the other speakers have talked about. It's your networks that you already have. Since we're engaging our economic developers and our businesses, we're tapping into those. But it can be done very short time frame once you have the model as well. We've taken the model and done it in a day with one of our school districts in the other part of the DMAC region, and that only took a couple of weeks to plan. So it can be done in a very short time frame once you have a model and once you tap into your well-established networks.
All right, now we get to involve you all in the interrogation of these brilliant minds. So I would invite at this time your questions. Just a little note of logistics, because we are trying to capture this session on the video. I will say the person holding the microphone can be the acknowledger of the order of questions. And then if you would please summarize into the microphone what the question is so that it's captured for all. And we'll open it up.
So I'm supposed to summarize that since I hold the microphone. So the question is were there any type of barriers or resistance from the various groups that you tried to pull together for your alliance in Marshalltown?
I think probably by the time that there was a collective decision made to move this into a positive energy direction than a negative, a lot of the barriers were starting to break down. So we included representatives from economic development on our committee, as well as service organizations. And I'll back that up a little bit. We use what what we call a collective impact theory approach. For those of you who may not be familiar with that, you're all familiar with the saying, it takes a village to raise a child. And collective impact theory, if you follow that all the way through, means it takes everybody. And so you include everybody, which is exactly what we did. Business and industry, healthcare, K-12 educators, the community college, go down the list. We tried to identify every possible power actor in our surrounding community to be involved. So we sorted, you know, we made I think, probably kind of a pact that let's talk about solutions, let's identify the problems and spend the rest of the time talking about solutions. And so by taking that approach and heading this thing in a positive direction, a lot of the resistance and the negativity, the caustic attitude, the toxic attitudes in some cases started to vaporize, you know. The barriers and all of the negativity actually probably drove the whole beginning of our project. But by including everybody, giving everybody a voice to be a part of the solution or solutions, the barriers were pretty much removed. And I can't say that there's been any negativity at any of our meetings ever since, and we've been doing this now for 5 years. But we also went on a campaign. Once we knew what we were going to do, we had our strategic plan, we had our group formed, we went on a campaign to promote support. So the co-chair, who was the president and CEO of the Emerson Fisher organization, and I went out and did presentations to our local service groups like Rotary, Kiwanis. We gave presentations to the school board, the chamber, the Marshalltown Economic Development Corporation. Everybody we thought, we were on the radio, we put things, editorials in the newspaper, so we contacted our local newspaper to do some coverage. And you know, when it was all said and done, the support shifted from resistance, well, the negativity and the barriers were gone, and we had a collective show of support by many, many people for what we were doing. That, I think, answers your question.
If I can just add something, Dr. Dury, I think the other thing that's important is Dr. Dury talked about the campaign, and I wasn't there at the time that the group embarked upon. That campaign continues. I think we have to, in a lot of the things that we do, we have to be willing to continue to remind our stakeholders and remind our community about the types of things that we're doing, and continue to involve them and continue to ask questions so that everybody continues to feel a part of it. And hence the reason why this fall we're going to step back and we're going to say, this is the history, this is what we've done, this is what we can feel good about. Now where do we go next? Yeah, that's a good question, and the question was based around, are we able to celebrate our successes over the years, and how are we able to celebrate those successes to get others in the community wanting to be involved? I think we have to a certain degree. I think that's one thing that I find even in our organization, the Marshalltown Regional Partnership, a lot of us get so involved and so focused on doing what we're doing. And sometimes maybe it's our Midwestern values, we don't stop to pat ourselves on the back and say, hey, good job, good work. And so I think that there's more that we can do to celebrate those successes, because I think it's, as you say, it's important as we're trying to continue to go on out there and campaign and bring other people along. I can say, I guess it was just a couple years ago, the Business Education Alliance received a very nice recognition from the Marshalltown Education Association. I think it was it was like an end of year celebration. So that was a big deal, for the Education Association to really recognize the impact that this group of people is having as they're getting together on a bi-monthly basis.
I would agree that we don't always celebrate our successes as loudly as I think we probably should, just because of maybe it's that Midwestern value, or everyone gets so bogged down in, okay, I have to move this forward, I have to do this, I have to do that. But we do, in Lee County, do celebrate what we have been able to accomplish, even those little things. The professional developers of Iowa, PDI, recognized Grow Lee for the best business retention and expansion overall program for 2 consecutive years now. So that was a huge success, a huge pat on the back for our programming. Then to involve the community a little bit more, one of the things that we try to do is kind of think outside the box, and every now and then do big whopper ideas. And one of the things that we needed to work on as a community was improving our image. So one of those big whopper ideas was, let's plant some flowers in between the 2 communities that we have that are kind of rivalries. And because it's a whopper idea, why not set a Guinness World Record in the process? So we brought everybody together, and we were able to do that, and successfully. Lee County now holds the Guinness Book of World Records for most people planting flower bulbs simultaneously in one area. So it's those little things and those big whopper ideas that really bring people together and kind of get that conversation going, and celebrating, hey, look what we can do if we come together and better our community. So if you're ever asked the question, Iowa is in the Guinness Book of World Records.
Our celebration is when we get asked to speak at the STEM conference, so.
So I'll add to what David said just a little bit. Our alliance, to some extent, we sort of operate under the radar. But when we have an accomplishment, we want to make sure that we let other people get the credit. I'll give you an example. Probably one of our bigger accomplishments. We knew that, and keep in mind everything we do ties back to our strategic plan, and one of those was to improve community perceptions and attitudes, and also help in particular, our immigrant and refugee populations understand the value of education. So we knew at the core of one of those issues was our meat processing plant. JBS is global. Their corporate headquarters are in South America. And I only share that with everybody so that I can, and they're also very unionized. So I kind of lay that out as a preface so you can understand how big of a deal one of our achievements was, which myself and a couple other people somehow, some way managed to get the JBS Corporation to give scholarship opportunities to all of their employees that need English language learning. So we're talking adults here. The reason we did that was because at least in our thoughts, if those parents can get a handle or a better grip on English language learning, not only do they assimilate better to the culture of our community, but at the same time, they are better equipped to help their children with their schoolwork at home. So we started that 3 years ago, and I just had data from this past academic year. We've now served just shy of 300 employees. And so every time that JBS would donate more money, we'd make a big deal out of it. So we would have a picture taken, had it put in the paper. We would, our marketing department at the college would do a media release. And so, there were little ways of recognizing people who were starting to get on board. We've increased, and I give full credit to the school district, our reading scores on some of our pilot projects with our initiative to have kids reading for understanding by the time they're in third grade. We have some incredible achievement results from that. We put those in the paper. We don't shoot off fireworks or anything. I think David makes a good point. We're always ready to keep moving and trying to keep a progressive movement with our initiative. So we probably don't do as good of a job as we could. I think that'll come up in our next strategic planning, that we really need to go around again to some of the organizations that we started talking to early on when we were making our presentations, and we need to go back and celebrate those results and, I guess, toot our horn a little bit. We're probably not as good at tooting as we should be, but where we've had some significant victories, we have tried to make a fairly big local deal out of it. And what we've done with that meat processing plant, working through corporate headquarters in South America and the union and everything else that we had to do to pull that one off, was nothing short of remarkable. But the results that we're now seeing through our education and training center, where we do that work through the college, has been truly nothing short of remarkable. So,
along with that, that's a good point, Dr. Dury, and celebrating the success and the input that JBS had into these programs, I will tell you, over the last couple of years has also been noticed by their corporate people. And because of that, we absolutely feel JBS becoming even a better corporate partner throughout the community in a lot of different ways. So it's been very good in a lot of different ways. Yes, sir.
Where is the funding coming from? Is it all from the Chamber of Commerce, or is it from the businesses themselves?
there's none. On our initiative anyway, we have no funding. This is all dedication, passion, and commitment from our local community leaders. So everything that we've done, now people have written our project into some grants and things like that relative to some of the initiatives, but the Alliance has no funding whatsoever. We have different strings attached that have resulted in capital campaigns and some things like that. For example, we have what we call the Marshalltown Education Partnership. Some of the same people involved with the Alliance serve on that board and have done a community-wide capital campaign to build scholarship dollars for those students who have no access to any financial aid. So they've had two campaigns because we were about out of money. We now are having several hundred Students go through that program. They start when they're freshmen in high school through their senior year, and if they meet the criteria, we do an institutional match at the college to help them with their tuition, because we have a lot of students that cannot access financial aid. So this allows them basically to at least knock off 1 year of college tuition free. And so you know, that's one example, and there are others, but as far as the Alliance, we have no fund whatsoever, okay? All of our organizations absorb any of the expenses that we have, which really is just time and effort and energy, and more than anything, is passion and commitment to help our students and help the community, so.
What about, I know the other two, you do maybe more like the breakfast, who provides the food, and I know, Kim, you've got some expenses with yours. What about that?
Yeah, our organization, Lee County Economic Development, is a public-private partnership. We did a capital campaign where we have investors such as local banks and industry involved in that. Then we are also funded by our Lee County Board of Supervisors. And with our Grow Lee programs, that's where the funding for those programs come from. And what we do as an organization is we have 4 pillars that we focus on: workforce development, business retention and expansion, new business attraction, and then marketing. So our funds is divided up amongst those 4 pillars. And as I mentioned earlier, some of our programs kind of dip into 2 of those pillars or a couple of them. Like, for example, some of our workforce development programs are actually business retention and expansion programs because of that high need. So that's where our funding comes from.
The funding for the Teaching for the Workforce initiative started with an EDA grant from the Iowa Department of Economic Development, and has been then, because of the success in it, there have been other funds that have come from our Regional Economic Development Group, and also then from DMAC to help continue the support of it.
Well, it looks like we have about 2 minutes left, and so on the sheet that Sarah Derry passed out, there's contact information for each of these panelists that you can learn more from them, or if you're interested in getting maybe some of their promotional materials, they hand out documentation they have around some of their events. Feel free to reach out to them, and I believe after this, everybody is to convene back into the hall where we're going to have closing remarks and then a regional mingle. So please help me in thanking our panelists today for coming and telling you about their program.